willingness to meet, even when it's more experimental. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're here on Friday night, Facebook Live and YouTube Live from your Vitality Project. I'm Bob Weathers, and I'm very happy and honored to welcome our guest, Angela McLeod. Hi, Angela.
Hi, Bob. Hi, everybody.
It's wonderful to have you with us. This is a Friday night, regular Friday night occurrence for Angela and me, and I look forward to this every week. It's a good way to end the week, and I hope it is for you all too. Our topic for tonight is based on the post for today at your Vitality Project, and the title of that post is How to Exercise Imagination Creatively. And as Angela and I were just speaking, this exercise is kind of what might be referred to as a thought experiment. I actually looked up that phrase this week because I've used it in some of my posts, and I was interested to find that that's exactly what I'm intending. We're just kind of Angela and I are just kind of go where we go with today's exercise, which was to look at what would happen if the various absolutisms that we put on the world, we call them requirements, in the context of these last several weeks of posts, utilizing an approach to recovery called mind-body bridging. This idea of requirements, which is that I must have or else, and typically the or else is I'll just be miserable. And so today's thought experiment, which invites us to definitely exercise our imagination, is to, first of all, I suggest that we come up with 4 requirements that seem to matter to us, things that we tend to place on others or on the world, and to look at what would it be like to have those actually satisfied, actually have those requirements met. And so before we met today, I reviewed the exercise myself. I know that Angela, you got it and have taken a look at it. So why don't we talk into it just to see what comes up for us. And I want to invite others that are watching, if you've done the homework exercise, to also, permit yourself to be ultimately creative with this. It's really meant to just see what comes up if I take away these requirements by satisfying them. That is, I'm no longer needing them to be a requirement because they're met. So that's the premise of the assignment. Any thoughts about this to kind of kick things off, Angela? Just invite any thoughts you have, and I'll jump in along the way.
I did get the post a little bit late for me to really engage with it, and to be honest, I saw the title and I was excited about this creative imagination, but when I saw what the actual task was, I had a really different response. I felt resistant actually to it, and so I did explore it a little bit, and I think I had preconceived idea. I just have this knowing, maybe it's just from experience, because I know that there's times when I've gotten something just the way I wanted it, and then there was something else that came up. It wasn't enough, so it's like, and there's this thing that never can be satisfied. So I think my resistance was a little bit like, oh, I already know what's going to happen here, and so I haven't actually had time to engage with it, to kind of go beyond my first reaction.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your first reaction. I'll tell you what I'd like to do is spend a minute with your first reaction, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
And then maybe what I can do is share with you my experience. I wrote the post. The post is drawing on the workbook that we've been using, the Mind Body Workbook, which I didn't write the workbook, nor did I write this exercise. I adapted the exercise, though, from it. And it was in doing it that I realized that it kind of went in a surprising way. So I'd love to share that with you too tonight, if we have time to do that, and just kind of interact about that. But let me ask you, first of all, just to understand better, if you're willing, I'm very interested to know, what was the resistance, the sense that came up? I think, for one thing, the title would be a misnomer. That is my title, How to Exercise Imagination Creatively. And I think it was probably coming out of a wish of, let me invite people to be interested in this, and then we'll dive in. But it's not quite as open or creative as it might have appeared in the title, and I own that, and I apologize for that. To anybody that was similarly kind of like disappointed or dismayed, it's like, that's what we're gonna do. So for you, what was the sense, do you think, of letdown or resistance?
Well, I have actually done a fair amount of active imagination and worked with creativity, and you know that I've shared that process with you too, and I have found that to be very enlivening and revealing of many different things that I wasn't aware of, and just in a general sense, the creativity of it and the playfulness of it has been, I don't know, energizing. Whereas this, for some reason, I took a I think I was also mixing in some of the other posts, the other tasks of looking at situations that didn't go how I wanted them to. And so I was also still processing some of those. So maybe the resistance was not so much the resistance to this exercise, but to just needing some more time to really get into it, and to work with it.
Since thank you, Angela. Since you and I have both practiced various forms of active imagination, which the tradition to which I was first introduced was the tradition of Carl Jung and Jungian psychologists. And there's been a lot of literature in Jungian psychology on active imagination, and I've practiced some form of that for decades. I mean, I really value it, and I know that you do too. It occurs to me as I listen to you, I didn't set it up this way, so I'm really owning up to that, but it occurs to me that we might be able to be creative here together and actually do this as an active imagination. This is a little bit like flying without a net, so let's see how this goes. I'll tell you what I'm thinking. I was listening to you and realizing, is there a way that we can make this fun, like imagination can be, and creative, and also maybe illuminating in some way? So here's the thought that comes to mind. If I imagine that there's a part inside of me, this would be going with the active imagination piece. If there's a part inside of me that places these requirements on the world, what would it be like to entertain another part of me that has all of those parts met? No, let me try it differently. How about if I came to that part that places these requirements on the world and came almost like a genie in a bottle and said, oh, we've taken care of those for you. And what would that part then say? What would that part then say? And I'll be honest with you, the ones that I listed here are ones that occurred to me personally. I think every one of them. I'll give you an example. I will never have to struggle ever again with addictive cravings. So I generated that one. That's not out of a book. That's mine. Okay, so that's been across the course of my recovery. That's waxed and waned. But let's say that it's on the waxing side, and then I come in and say, well, Bob, or whatever that part is, Bob, we're going to take that away. You don't have to ever worry about ever having another addictive craving ever. And I want to tell you that when I allowed myself to do that, and it's very much in the spirit of active imagination, kind of giving a voice to this other part, this part that says, you don't have to have that. In fact, we've taken care of it. When I did that, and I did it right before we met tonight, is very interesting for me, Angela, is that it opened up, I hate to even say this online, but it's true. It opened up for me a value that I find in addictive cravings, that if you took that away, I'm not sure that would be such a great thing. So if I place a requirement that I shouldn't have addictive cravings, and if I go right into it via active imagination, okay, Bob, no addictive cravings. We're good to go. What I realize is it invites in, well, what would that be like? And this is where the playfulness comes in. Well, that wouldn't be exactly like what I planned. That would be Let me give one more example, and then let's just dialogue. There's another one I included there that has to do with faith. I also want to be respectful in this, but I put, my family members will all be kinder and more loving to me. And because I have family members that are alive and that might even watch this, I do want to be respectful here. I have to be respectful, and I do intend that. I was even respectful in my writing of it. But I place that requirement that my family members all have to be a certain way with me. In fact, they should be kinder. They should be more loving. Okay. Then I let myself, again, in the spirit of active imagination, go, well, they all are. Now they're all going to be more kind. They're all going to be more loving to you, Bob. And I'll tell you, I had a similar, you talked about resistance, Angela. I had a similar something inside, and I'm going to see if I can name it to you. It was like, there's something inside of me that contracts around that, only because I lived a lot of my life, I think, not only wanting more kindness, but I think also a part of me that's very naive and assumed more kindness or assumed more benevolence. And I want to broaden it beyond just family members out of respect to family members. But it's like, if I listen to this other voice, oh, Bob, we've taken care of it. Family members are going to be kinder. It's like, it's too close to a part of me that's been very naive and not kept its eyes open when there was violation, wasn't good at setting boundaries, all of that. And I realized that I've set this up. Well, you can have what you want, Bob. Well, you know what? It's more complicated. It's more complicated. Danielle just wrote something. Hi, Danielle. I'm glad to see you. She says we have to earn it back. We have to earn it back. Say a little bit more, Danielle. I think I'm getting it, but I might not. I feel like that whether it's, I think maybe that's what she's talking about. You say a little bit more, Danielle, and I'll share it with the group. I think whether it's addictive cravings, if you wipe that out, I don't earn anything. It's just an automatic thing. And I lose for me a very important signal. You and I have talked about this, Angela. A very important signal in terms of my moving into distress is addictive cravings. And so I want to, it'd be like, I want to remove all sensation of pain when I contact something hot. Right. I don't like the sensation of burning hands. Okay, well, that's fine, except if I put my hand in hot water that's scalding, then I don't want to lose that. And similarly with family, I feel like I do want more graciousness. Yeah, she says we have to earn it back with our family members. I want, one author refers to it as cheap grace. I don't want cheap grace. I want it to be something that really is in your spirit, Danielle, that it's earned, that it's valid. Anyway, I just want to share with you, that's what came up for me. I wasn't thinking of your comments when I did the exercise, but the sense is if I look at this more playfully as a dialogue between different parts of myself, which is what active imagination is for me, it isn't what I thought it was going to be. It was like, yeah. Does that register or resonate for you?
That does. Yeah, I feel like there's something that's not quite formulated yet into articulation words for me about this, but I think what you're describing is getting at it for me. Like feels like I guess I did take a situation that happened with a housemate earlier this week, and I looked at what would happen if I had gotten what I wanted. I had an interaction that I didn't get what I wanted in the interaction, and I felt like I couldn't even imagine what that would have been like to get what I wanted. And I realized that now, as I'm talking about this, that that when I didn't get what I wanted and I blamed him, I got mad at him, that immediate action was preventing me or protecting me from feeling the pain, that a deeper pain was, oh, I'm too much, I'm too needy. It was like a deficiency feeling. And that is something that I carry. He didn't do that to me. That is something that I carry that wants to be healed. And so I felt like my resistance to imagining just getting what I wanted was that wound wouldn't be seen or dealt with or noted. And so even though maybe it would have been appropriate for him to have I won't even go into that level of it right now. But even though if I had gotten what I had wanted, this wound would still be here. And so in a sense, I wouldn't have earned getting what I want. I wouldn't have earned isn't quite the right thing. That thing would still be in me. You know, that wound would still be there and come up some other way. So I think
I
that
really
was
like where you take it,
was.
Angela.
Yeah.
I really like where you've taken it, and I also want you to know I really resonate with it. In the last day or two, in terms of my quiet time and kind of personal reflections, I've really felt really strongly, and it keeps kind of coming up synchronistically in readings that I'm doing, that I think it's Rumi that puts it in this language, but you could find this in virtually every wisdom tradition, is that he says, keep looking at the bandaged place.
Mm-hmm.
It's the place of the wound. I read a Christian devotional author, Oswald Chambers, in the morning, and he's using it. He's talking about the same thing in a Christianly context. It doesn't. The entry point is that it's through the brokenness, it's through the humility, it's through the wound, it's through what you're talking about. If we're given what we want, it reminds me. I started talking about the genie. Isn't there a old folk tale of somebody getting what they want from the genie, and it doesn't go well?
Yeah, and it doesn't go well, and then they can't get rid of it or something. Yeah,
yeah.
Can't
it
stuff
makes
the
me
genie
think
back.
of that. I think there's incredible wisdom in what you're saying, and I'm surprised that we're finding something amidst all of this. This is one of those exercises I typically have an idea of where the exercise might go, and I didn't with this one. With this one, and I feel like I love what you've done with it in terms of what it opens up. And I think what you've done is you've even amplified or extended what it did for me. I realize that if you take away these things, there's value in what I have. And then you've taken it even deeper, I think, which is I would never get to the healing that's necessary at this deeper level if I just always got what I wanted, if it was always provided.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something else that on this topic that's been in these posts the last few days about requirements and preferences that I've been working with is, and it actually connects me with my studies in Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolence communication model, where he talks about universal human needs.
Yes.
And he uses the word needs, and I've kind of struggled with that. But there are needs. We have survival needs, like we need to breathe, we need water, we need food. And then when we get to all the other kinds of needs, like we need love, we need acceptance, and that sort of thing. One of the things that I love that in that model is that we do have these needs, but we don't necessarily, there could be many ways to meet those needs. And where we often get stuck is that we think we need that thing to fulfill our need, or we need that person to do or love us in a very particular way. Otherwise, it goes into a demand, or it goes into the requirement. And so that shift to preference, and the other thing that I brought up resistance to me on this topic is that after being depressed so much of my life, that becoming in touch with wanting and passion has been really important for me. It's a part of my aliveness and my healing. And so sometimes that comes up like I need this and I demand this. And like that feels really good to me, because I had lost any sense of passion. At the same time, it's like, don't take that away from me yet. Like I want to feel that level of must have that. Well, I also know that I may not get it. I may not get it the way I want it right now. But sometimes I feel I cling a little bit to that demanding energy that's in there, because there's an energy in it that I think is really healthy. And maybe it's a phase, that it's like what your posts have given this last week, I don't disagree with, and I think it's really important to really make that shift to preference. But I think that initial resistance was around, I want what I want, and I'm going to stand up for it. And I feel like there's something there's a vitality to that
Yeah, I do
is
too.
important.
You and I've talked about this before. I'm writing in here the name of an author, Mark Epstein, wrote a book. He's a psychoanalyst in New York who has written a number of books on the interface between Buddhism and mindfulness and psychotherapy. So he's just one of these people who's written that interface. And I remember when I first got into recovery earlier on, I was really, I felt and feel very much with you, Angela. I know you to be passionate, and you know me to be passionate. And I thought, is this whole mindfulness thing, as I was engaged in refuge recovery, is it just a form of kind of trying to quiet my passion? And then on top of that, this whole recovery thing, am I supposed to just kind of like, erase my passionate nature? And I was very worried about that. I was very interested in recovery, and I was also very disinterested in erasing passion in my life. And this book was a godsend to me. I didn't even finish the book. I read a few chapters, I got his message, and I went on my way. The book is right there. It's called Open to Desire. Anybody for whom this is a question of how do I approach recovery when I've operated with excess, much to my own and other people's great cost. How do I move into recovery and not erase myself as a passionate person? If that matters to you, and it matters a lot to me, and I know it matters to you, Angela, including what we're saying right now, here's somebody who really articulates that from a deeply felt meditative place, as well as a deeply committed to recovery place, as well as to a very deeply psychologically sound place. I just realized this is really a well done book, it seems like to me. I want that. That's why we call this the Vitality Project, not the boring and sobriety project or something. It's like I do not. I want as you. I want to thrive in recovery and sobriety. I want to be vital in recovery, and so it's well taken. It makes me think of something too, as I was listening to you, is that we make this distinction between requirements and preferences. A requirement, I must have, or else that's the end of my world. A preference, I would really like this. And I think one thing that we can do that I want to be really careful about not supporting is that some people will talk about, well, I'm just desireless. I just don't have any preferences. One way to not be disappointed is just don't have any preferences. I would never counsel that. That's not at all what we're talking about. What we're talking about is much more challenging, which is to passionately want something. What you want, Angela. What I want. And at the same time, hold what feels like just the opposite, which is I may not get this, but don't diminish my passion. So can I be passionate for that and also have it in me to have a capacity to grieve those times that I don't get what I want and not have that flatten my passion?
That's it. And the willingness to feel the pain, that goes right with it.
It does. If we think about passio as suffering, the Latin term for suffering, is that it's the Latin root for passion as well. You think about the New Testament, they talk about the passion of Christ. That's the suffering of Christ. And we're talking about passion in terms of a vital, robust emotional life, sensual life, intellectual life, life, all of that. And they're related. I don't know that I can have passion without passio. I don't think I can have that. And that's kind of our point. I can clip it off and have no passions, but that's a facsimile of a life. That's really not a life. And I can incinerate in my passions, and that would be what we're talking about with the victimized position. This first position is that if I demand that I get what I want, if my passion demands that I get what I want, that's not a good long-term strategy for living this life. I'm going to have to find a way to feel the grief of not always getting what I want, and then get up, knock the dust off, and go after what I want. Not give up.
Channeling that energy, like I can choose, I can make new choices. I think that was the other thing that came up for me during the readings this week is not focusing so much on getting the world to give me what I want, or this one situation or that to be just how I want it, but to notice what I want, or even
Yes.
when I'm requiring it, because I
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
I'm going to sometimes really be attached to what I want,
Yeah. Yeah.
but then also realize that I can breathe, relax, choose something
Mm,
different, if
yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
getting my way here,
Yeah.
accepting
Mm,
that, but that there can be many different strategies, that
yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
just have to be this one way.
Yeah, I very much appreciate that. Do you mind if I ask you to share something? We just have a couple minutes,
Oh,
but I wonder if you would share a story. It's a beautiful story to me. It's been with me all day. The story about a dog in your life. I think it's a beautiful example of what we're talking about. And I want to ask you for permission because
okay.
I wouldn't, if that's okay with you to share, I would love for
Yeah,
you to
yes, for
share it.
sure.
I think it's
Yeah,
just a perfect example of what we're talking about. And it's very touching to me.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, a new neighbor that lives really
Mhm,
close to where I live
mhm,
has a dog, and he's a
mhm,
very big dog, and he's got a lot of energy, and he really likes me, and he
mhm,
comes bounding up to me, and usually he tries to jump on me. He's got he doesn't know that he's pushing me over or sometimes hurting me a little bit.
mhm, mhm.
And at first, my response to that, I actually was a little annoyed with the dog owner, thinking, can't you control your dog better and give your dogs better manners? And then I realized recently, when I just paused and really looked at that dog as he came running toward me,
Yeah.
he had the most beautiful, I swear he was smiling, and he
Mm,
was,
mm.
coming, running towards me. Like he really wanted to be next to me, and I realized
Yeah,
that was such love. Like, wow, I want to receive that
yeah,
beautiful
yeah,
energy.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's really shifted my relationship
Mm,
to him. Yes, it does
mm,
sometimes hurt a little bit when he jumps up on me, but that loving energy
mhm,
coming toward me, I
mm,
was missing
mhm.
that because my first
Yes.
reaction,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that story. Thank you. Thank you, Angel, for sharing that. Is that there are times that we get love from people in our lives, and sometimes we don't get love from the people that we want to get love from. And that if we keep open, and I think this is your point earlier, if I can stay open to multiple forms of whatever it is I'm seeking, whether it's love or creative expression or pleasure. I mean, we can just go down the list. If I can stay open, maybe maybe there's it's not maybe there are multiple pathways that I might be nourished if I stay open.
Yeah.
And my requirements, when I move into that what we're calling red alert brain, I get very tunnel visioned and I don't realize there's this great poem by, I think it's by, yeah, it's also by Rumi, where he talks about, I think this is picked up in different religious traditions, where this person goes searching everywhere for a treasure and it was right underneath
Uh-huh.
his house, It's
Uh-huh.
like,
Yeah.
and it's like that dog is in your life as a tremendous gift.
Mhm.
We talked about it as Eckhart Tolle calls our pets in our lives as guardians of being. That dog is a guardian of your being. If you have eyes to see,
Yeah.
and you do, and
Yep.
that's the point. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, Angela, I really appreciate you just kind of going into the nebulous nature of this one.
Sure. Yeah.
I
That's
also
fun.
I very much appreciate you're talking about what came up for you, honestly, in terms of resistance, of the reasons that you had for that, I think are illuminating. And
Mm-hmm.
I think they take the exercise way beyond anything that I could have imagined. Frankly, I couldn't imagine exactly how this was going to play out. And it's
Uh-huh.
been valuable for me. It's been even more valuable for me dialoguing with you in this spirit.
Mm.
In fact, I think our conversation itself might be seen as active imagination.
Yeah. 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 I love where it's
Yeah,
gone. Yeah.
yeah, me too. Thanks so much.
You're
Well,
welcome.
again, Angela, so much richness here. Here's to bounding dogs and to keeping our eyes and ears wide open. I
Yeah.
wish you a beautiful evening and a good weekend.
Thank
Much
you.
love to you.
Too.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You take care. Good night to everybody. Thanks for joining us. Have a safe weekend and come back and join Angela and me next Friday. Bye-bye for now.